Hey everybody, this is Juan Saavedra from T.F.P. Cichlids, and today we're finishing up our 4-part video series, To Be or Not to Be. Now in my first video, I showed y'all that I bred a Cuban Cichlid male to a Sid Vicious female. In my second video, I showed y'all that I bred T.F.P. Starman to a different Sid Vicious female. And in the third video, I showed y'all that I bred T.F.P. Starman to my female T.F.P. Sugarcane. And I thought it was necessary to create a fourth video to show y'all what I was going to do with all of these different breedings. Now, one of the things that's necessary when you're a breeder is to create something called a pedigree. Now, for those that don't know what a pedigree is simply the genealogy of an organism or the family tree of an organism. Now, to break it down, to make it clear for you, you have a pedigree. Your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, and your great-great-grandparents, and your great-great-great-grandparents, you come from all of those people, and that makes up who you are. You have all of those people's genetics inside of your own blood. Now, you have them in different and varying degrees or different percentages. When it comes to your parents, since you have two parents, you are one. And if you divide you in two, right? How do you divide you in two? If you get one father and one mother, right? Two of them made you. Now that is 50%. 1 over 2, or 1 divided by 2 equals 50%. So you are 50% of your father, 50% of your mother. Now your father has a mother and a father. Those are your grandparents on your father's side. Your mother also has a mother and a father. Those are your grandparents on your mother's side. Now, each one of them contributes to your genes as well, your genetics. But since you have 4 grandparents, 2 on your father's side and 2 on your mother's side, and you are one individual, one person, if you divide 1 by 4, that's 25%. So each one of those is 1/4. Your grandfather on your father's side is 1/4 from that group of 4. He's 1 out of 4. So he's contributing 25% of his genes to you. And then your mother on your father's side is contributing 25% to you. Now your grandfather on your mother's side is contributing 25% of her genes to you. And then your grandmother on your mother's side is contributing 25% of her genes to you. And that's how it goes. You go back. Let's go to your great-grandparents. You have 8 great-grandparents. 1 divided by 8 equals 12.5. So you have 12.5% of each person who is your great-grandparent. Each one of your great-grandparents contributes 12.5% to your blood. Now, if you go to great-great-grandparents, each one of them contributes, I think it's 6.25% to you. So as you can see, all of these different people in your pedigree or in your genealogy or your family tree contribute to your genetics, to your genetic makeup. And I went through all of this slowly because I understand that pedigrees is sometimes it's hard to wrap your head around in percentages. A lot of y'all have seen me for the past year. I've been posting videos and saying, and I start off with saying, hey, this is a 50% Dovi, 25% Managuensis, 25% Motaguensis, right? Specifically talking about T.F.P's iguana. And a lot of times people didn't really get what I was talking about percentage-wise. And so that's why I felt it necessary to even discuss or even break down what this whole percentages thing is. So that's why I'm explaining to you nice and slow so that you can get it. Now, I remember when I was learning pedigrees, I used to be into game dogs, game-bred pit bull, American pit bull terriers. And when I started learning about pedigrees, it was hard to wrap my head around, a lot of these ideas, because they were new ideas, new concepts. I got out of the dogs long ago, but I took that knowledge and I put that knowledge into my fish, and I started building pedigrees on my fish. Now that I've told you all these percentages, we're going to start talking about these fish that I've been breeding. Let's talk about the first breeding. Here goes their pedigree. Check it out. You see the Cuban Cichlid male is the father to the fry that were produced. And then the mother is the Sid Vicious female. Now, the offspring are getting 50% of the Cuban Cichlid's genes. And from the mother's side, from the Sid Vicious female, you have a male 50% Dovi, 50% Managuensis. Now the Sid Vicious female's mother is a Hartwegi. So she's 100% Hartwegi. So those babies are 50% Cuban Cichlid, 25% Hartwegi, 12.5% Dovi, and 12.5% Managuensis. Now, if we add up all these percentages, you'll see that it adds up to 100%, which is 1. Let's add it up. 50% from the Cuban, plus 25% from the Hartwegi, plus 12.5% from the Dovi, plus 12.5% from the Managuensis. All of that totals up to 100%. So that's that first breeding. The second breeding, we have T.F.P. Starman bred to the Sid Vicious female. Now T.F.P. Starman is a Gus's red spot, and Gus's red spot is a hybrid of a Gudulatus and a Hartwegi. Now, there are a lot of y'all that know even more when it comes to that particular type of hybrid, so you might know more about it than me. I'm just gonna be real. I don't know too much about the Gus red spot line too much, but I know that they're known to be a Gudulatus Hartwegi hybrid. So T.F.P. Starman is a Gus red spot. And the Sid Vicious female, this is now the sister to the first female, she, again, like we said, is 50% Hartwegi, 25% Dovi, 25% Managuensis. And that's that line, the second breeding. The third breeding was T.F.P. Starman to T.F.P. Sugarcane. Now, I told y'all in my third video that T.F.P. Sugarcane's father is Nikos Brown's the Man, who was later known as Frank Bloom's the Man. Her mother is, or was, a Cuban Cichlid, 50% Cuban Cichlid, 50% golden-based flowerhorn. She was that hybrid. So that was a cross. So the percentages on the third breeding are 50% Gus red spot, 25% Nikos Brown's the Man, 12.5% Cuban Cichlid, and 12.5% golden-based flowerhorn. And those are the breedings that we have there. But let's go ahead and break this thing down a little further. Now, one of the things that I like to do specifically is to look at these different breedings, not just as the different hybrids that there are, but since I'm starting to plan how I'm going to breed these lines, my goal is that I'm going to take these different offspring of these different lines and breed them together. Like, say, for example, in the first breeding, I bred the Cuban Cichlid male to the Sid Vicious female. Now, the other fish that I bred here that are very similar is the third breeding, T.F.P. Starman, bred to T.F.P. Sugarcane. When we talk about the first breeding was a 50% Cuban Cichlid, and when you look on the mother's side, she is 50% Hartwegi, which is a Vieja, 25% Dovi, 25% Managuensis. Now those two are Parachromis. So if I discard that they're Dovi and Managuensis, but I just put that to the side and I just look at them from their genus point of view, then the Sid Vicious female is really a 50% Vieja, which is the Hartwegi Vieja, and 50% parachromis. So you see what I'm saying? So now, if we look at this breeding that I did, since the Cuban Cichlid is a parachromis, he contributed 50% of his genes, which is 50% parachromis, and from the mother side, you're getting 25% parachromis. So 25 plus 50 equals 75. So this fresh breeding, I look at it like a 75% parachromis, 25% vieja. That's how I look at that breeding. Now let's go to this last breeding, the third breeding, which is T.F.P. Starman bred to T.F.P. sugarcane. Now the percentages on that are that T.F.P. Starman he contributes 50% vieja, and from the mother's side, T.F.P. sugarcane, her father, Nikos Browns, the man, is also vieja, so he contributes to her 50% of his genes, but then to these offspring that come from this two breeding of T.F.P. sugarcane and T.F.P. Starman, the babies get 25% of that vieja blood that comes from Nikos Browns, the man. So when we add that up, we get 50% from T.F.P. Starman, right? And 25% from T.F.P.'s sugarcane's father, right? Nikos Browns, the man. So we're talking about vieja, that genus, right? So they are 75% vieja. And then now we can go back and see that the mother contributed 12.5% Cuban Cichlid blood and 12.5% golden-based flower horn. So what we look at this as is that this is a 75% vieja and also very close to being 25% parachromis. And it's because flower horns have a lot of parachromis blood as well by the way of the trimax, the trimaculatus blood that is in flower horns. And so, and then you have the Cuban Cichlid, which contributed 12.5%. So that gets you close to 25%. But the point is that we have a 75% vieja from this third breeding and 75% parachromis, the first breeding. So now we're going to take these two similar lines, and my goal, and this is what I'm charting out right here. Check out this pedigree. See? I'm charting and I'm putting these fish together. I'm showing you their offspring. And this is where pedigrees can become helpful, where you can make a plan of what you want to breed. So if you see now specifically for this breeding, the Cuban Cichlid from the first breeding, he's special in that he's a Cuban Cichlid. And the Sid Vicious females are special in the fact that she is a hybrid of Parachromis vieja, which is very rare. I mean, you know. And so that's what makes that special. But are any of those fish in that line specifically very special in that they are very unique or special or amazing colored? Not necessarily. The Sid Vicious female, not really the best as far as color and all that kind of stuff. And the Cuban Cichlid is amazing that it's a Cuban Cichlid, but it's not nothing super special. You know, what makes this whole thing special is all these different genes that we have mixed into here and the potential for the babies, what they can turn out to look like. And that's what makes this a very special breeding. The third breeding, where I have T.F.P. Starman, who is nice in his own right, but he's not the best looking Gus's Red Spot. He does look beautiful, but he's not the best. You know, you have other fish out there that are better looking, like Cesar Rentaria's Knuckles. You know, that guy is amazing. He's beautiful. He's really beautiful, right? Based on what I'm telling you, I'm not focusing on T.F.P. Starman being this amazing male. He's got the color and he's beautiful, but the one that I'm focusing on is Nikos Browns, the man. Nikos Browns, the man, a very special male. Now, he was not only special in his color, he was absolutely gorgeous, but he was very special in that he had a very amazing temperament and personality. He would breed with a lot of different females, and from my understanding, he wasn't a killer. Now, Nikos Brown, you can probably clarify that in the comments, whether he was a killer of females and stuff like that. But from my understanding, he was a very amazing breeder. And Nikos Brown bred the heck out of her. He bred it to a red mammon. He bred it to, what else? He bred it to other flower horns, other VF looking like flower horns. He bred him to the Cuban Cichlid golden base female cross. I mean, he was a breeder. I mean, this guy would take and breed to almost any female he put her with. At one point, I was going to try to send T.F.P's Tiffany to him and see if he would breed him to her. And that would have been amazing if that he would have did that. But I was still, working on my bloodline. I was still wasn't trying to put all my breedings out like that because it was fairly new. I wasn't so far in my breeding program that I wanted to really put my fish out there like that. So I didn't do that, to protect my own breeding program and all that kind of stuff. But it would have been amazing. I mean, it would have been amazing. I should have did it, actually. I should have sent him T.F.P's Tiffany so that he could have made that cross, And for those that don't know, T.F.P's Tiffany is T.F.P's Mega Man's grandmother. But the point I'm making, and all this stuff taking long saying about this, is that Nikos Brown's man was such a special fish that he is like on a pedestal. Not only did Nikos Brown breed the heck out of her, Frank Bloom, when Frank Bloom got this fish, now my understanding that he's paid thousands for that fish, right? But I don't know. He can verify that. And that it was sold later on for thousands, right? Like $5,000, right? And, but I don't know. I'm not the one that did the business, but I heard, he was such a special fish. I mean, he is absolutely amazing. And so Nikos Brown's the man. The man is such a special fish that I'm looking to, and not only that it bred with a Cuban Cichlid golden base hybrid. I'm not all, happy about the flower horn aspect of that, because, I like flower horns. They're nice and everything, but, I like to keep my own stuff outside of flower horn blood, But specifically, I'm focusing on Nikos Brown's the man, and the reason why I'm focusing on it because he's such a special fish. Now, what that means is, I said all of that to say, right, that in selecting my male, I'm going to select the male out of that particular breeding. So the offspring that I got off of T.F.P. Starman, bred to T.F.P. Sugarcane, I'm going to select out a male out of them, and I'm going to get that male, and I'm going to breed that male to the first breeding, right? The first breeding being the 50% Cuban Cichlid, 25% Hartwegi, 12.5% Dovi, 12.5% Managuensis. That's what you see right here on the pedigree. You see it right there? And that's why I made the male off of Nikos Brown's the man, because my goal is to produce something that looks as amazing as Nikos Brown's the man, right? But with a hint of Cuban Cichlid in there, to make something amazing. I mean, something crazy looking. And so that's what I'm looking to do with that line. Now, one of the things that we employ as breeders, we employ things. Now, a lot of people that breed don't do this, right? Like I know one guy, Juani Olivo, right, who had Candyman. He didn't want to do inbreeding and stuff like that. And you have a lot of people that don't want to inbreed fish. Like I'm not sure if Skip inbreeds fish or not. Skip Smith. I think that I'm not sure. I'm not sure because I haven't really looked at his pedigrees and the stuff that he does. He also does pedigrees on his fish too. But I'm not sure if he inbreeds like that. Juani Olivo, one of the things that he would do, he would get Candyman, get a female, breed the mess out of them, put those babies out and stuff like that. Then he'd get rid of that female, get another female, from a separate line, breed them and put them out like that. And he kept offspring like that, and he would breed them out. And so he decided not to inbreed. Last I spoke to him, it was about a year ago. Like I was like, man, I tried to tell him, yo, you got to inbreed that male, you got to inbreed him. He didn't want to do it. I'm not sure now if he's doing it or not, you know. But specifically, you can let me know in the comments too, you know, here on Facebook, Juan, if if you're inbreeding him or not. But from what I was, talking to, he was staunch about not inbreeding him. But what a lot of breeders do is we inbreed fish. The reason why we inbreed fish is to preserve genes. I was urging Juan to inbreed Candyman because Candyman, he was a special fish. I mean, you could say whatever you want about him. A lot of people hated on Juan for that fish. They because Juan was talking a lot of trash too. I mean, he Puerto Rican. I mean, we're Puerto Rican, he talking trash and stuff like. But a lot of people were coming at him like, man, your fish is a hybrid. Your fish is not this. They were, I think a lot of it was jealousy. He was getting he was newer into the hobby and he was getting a lot of credit for this fish. Man, Juan did amazing with that fish. And a lot of people hated on him and they got into all kind of Facebook arguments and crap like that. And people, were claiming that he was a hybrid and all. But nevertheless, Candyman is he was such a beautiful and amazing looking male, that I was like, you got to inbreed that fish, because what happens is when Juan takes Candyman, breeds him to a female, then he's going to produce babies, right? A baby that's a 50% Candyman, 50% something else, right? So then when he breeds that 50% Candyman to another different female, because he doesn't want to inbreed, now you're going to have a 25% Candyman. And then when he breeds that 25% Candyman offspring to another fish, because he doesn't want to inbreed, he's producing a 12.5% Candyman. And so what happens is that Candyman's blood becomes so insignificant in that bloodline that it gets washed out over time. And so I was urging him to inbreed him and even breed him to one of his daughters to create a 75% Candyman, and then breed that 75% Candyman daughter back to him to create, I think it's like 82.5%, something like that. I'll put it on the screen. But to create a higher percentage offspring of Candyman, what you're trying to do is kind of not lose those Candyman genes. That's why you have inbreed fish, why you line breed, because you're trying to preserve the traits of an amazing individual, because over time, if you don't have inbreed, you'll wash out that blood. I hope that he's an inbreed Candyman, because Candyman was an amazing male. Now, for those that don't know, I had bought some fish from Juan Olive, a female that I call Red Hot. He didn't really call her Red Hot. He didn't have a name for her, and I asked him, I said, you mind if I call her Red Hot? He's like, I don't care, And so that's what I name it on the pedigree. Now I have it as Juan Oliva's Red Hot because he actually bred the fish. I wound up buying Red Hot from him, and I tried to breed her to my brother Youngblood Kennels G3, but that was a disaster. Don't even ask me about it. But anyhow, it didn't work out, and that G3 was off the bloodline that my brother Youngblood Kennels, right? Gilberto Isaac. Shout out to you, brother, in Germany with the 2 babies, Manuela. And I tried to bring that line together, but I couldn't. It didn't work. I was messed up. What was that? I made a big mistake the way I bred them. I've learned so much along the way, lost so much money. But anyhow, so now what I'm doing with this line that I'm creating, I'm going to be inbreeding. I'm going to be line breeding. And the reason why I need to have other lines that are similar to breed into this is so that you don't do heavy inbreeding. One of the things that the side effects that you get from heavy inbreeding is you get genetically, there's something called recessive genes, and a lot of times diseases are, there are a lot of people that know more about genetics can explain a lot better than me, but just to quickly say, a lot of genetic disorders or diseases are linked on a recessive trait. And so what happens is that when you inbreed fish, you get a lot of those recessive traits that show up. And so you get a lot of, sometimes you can get a lot of diseased fish that have problems. You could get fish that come out, have have issues with their sight. They'll be blind, easy. You get fish that can be retarded, looking like the parrot cichlids, folded up, bent up face. You know what I'm saying? You could see fish that have crooked tails or short bodies, or what else can you see? There's one more thing that you see. Oh, and this is specific to the flowerhorns. Flowerhorns, they're heavy inbred like crazy in order to preserve that red and their genetics. And for all of y'all that do know, they have the gastrointestinal problems where they get bloat easy, they get parasites easy, and that's kind of why I stopped fooling with flowerhorns, because I was tired of that, But that's when the side effects. So inbreeding, you preserve a lot of the traits. Like, let's say the man is real beautiful color, and I'm going to start inbreeding off the man. I'm going to preserve a lot of his traits, but there are also genetic defects that are in his own genes that will show up. And so that's why you want to be careful with inbreeding. But I went too far about breeding. I'm not trying to really cover that in this video, like pedigrees. That's going to be another video where I'll go specific into that, or another series of videos. I'm sorry it took me so long to say all of this, but it's a lot of information, and it's kind of necessary to talk about this. And I've tried to say it as slow as I could to not confuse you, so that you stay on track on what I'm doing. But this is what I'm planning on doing with this breeding. And so what I'm going to be doing is interweaving the different breedings together, but focusing on the blood that comes from that fish, the Nikos brown. That's going to be my focus. And I'm going to try to produce amazing individuals. Now, when I get an amazing individual off of this, that's the male that I'm going to be inbreeding, like inbreeding, line breeding, all that stuff. He's going to be the one that I'm going to focus on. Like Nikos browns, the man is a special fish. He should have been inbred. He should have been bred to a female and then bred to one of his daughters and then bred to the granddaughter. He should have been inbred hard, right? And line bred and all that stuff. And I think Nikos Brown did it. I think Frank Bloom did some of that too. What is that? That fish, Juani Olivos Candyman, was an amazing fish. I don't care what you say. You can have all the criticism you want. You could say, it's BS, yada, yada, yada. You could say, he's a hybrid, whatever you want to say. But you cannot deny how amazing that fish looks. And not just that, not just the fact that Juani Olivos Candyman was amazing, but that he threw a lot of offspring, meaning when he bred, he produced a lot of amazing looking offspring as well. You got to give credit where credit is due. And so he was an amazing fish. And that fish should have been inbred like a mug. Like, the heck, he should have been inbred hard to produce fish. Not only fish that look, he would produce fish that look real great, but he should have been inbred in order to preserve Candyman, right? To produce fish that had a higher percentage of Candyman in him. Now, Juan, come on, man. I ain't trying to start no beef off of this or whatever. I don't want you to think I'm disrespecting you by talking about this, but I'm just giving my opinion about breeding. Nikos Brown, Frank Bloom, please don't take none of this stuff personal. Don't get mad if I, can say like I would have did this, I would have did that and the other. It's all love. We're just talking genetics. We're talking fish. There's no beef on this, man. I love all of y'all. I respect y'all. You understand what I'm saying? But I'm just telling you, these things to show what I'm doing with them. And specifically, for those that don't know, I brought some of those fish off of Juani Oliver, Candyman, and that is actually Mega Man 2's grandfather, see, on his mother's side, because I took a daughter of Candyman and I bred that to T.F.P's Mega Man to produce Mega Man 2. Now, I do recognize that I have amazing blood through T.F.P's Mega Man as well as Candyman, and so that's the Mega Man Candyman bloodline. And so now I took Mega Man 2 and I bred him to 2 different females. I bred him to his sister, T.F.P's Mega Hot Girl, and then to Dinamita. And so that's how I produced that. But this video is long, man. I got to cut this thing. And I appreciate y'all sticking with me. For those that did stay this long, those that hung. And just know that this is my plan, what I'm planning to do with this breeding. And these things take years to produce, you know. But I think that in the end, I'm going to produce something that's amazing, that's unique, and that doesn't exist in the world. And so that's what I'm doing here at T.F.P. Cichlids. So thank you for stopping by, watching this video. I'm going to be coming out with another series of videos next week. So stay tuned to see what it's going to be about. I'm still trying to decide what I'm going to produce. But whatever it is, you know it's going to be good because it's coming from T.F.P. Cichlid. So I appreciate y'all staying with me. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel. Share this video with other people. Other people don't know about, you know, that you know like hybrids. Share them with people. Share them to all the flower horn community. Share them on different groups. Take this video. Tell them, look, you got to watch this guy. He's doing something unique. Everybody's doing hybrids, but they're running towards the flower horns, you know. And there's few people that are just doing their own hybrids, breeding pure stuff, you know, and creating their own things. So just let them know, like, this guy's doing something different. And that's about it. Make sure you comment down below. Make sure you see me on Facebook so you can chit chat. You can send me some text. Let me know what you think. Tell me my fish are ugly. Tell me they're nice. Whatever you want to say, you know, it's all good. Just make sure you put a comment, all right? Thank you for coming by T.F.P. Cichlids on YouTube, and I'll see y'all soon. Peace.